This is Keith Owens, welcoming you to the Afro Fantasy Detroit podcast, a Detroit Stories quarterly production. Today I will be reading you part 1 of The Witch, and I hope you enjoy it. The first time I saw her, she was homeless. At least that's how she looked to me. Face like a rat, ink black hair streaked with silver, matted up in greasy clumps, wearing a filthy oversized coat that covered a threadbare red dress and several more mismatched layers of clothing. Plus, she was pushing a grocery cart full of large plastic bags and other belongings, which is standard for homeless folk. Or I guess the new and more politically correct term is unhoused, right? Personally, I don't see the damn difference, and I don't see how being unhoused makes your life better than if you're homeless. If you're unhoused, then your ass is homeless. But whatever, it's a gripe of mine, and I have more than a few. The point is the woman fit the description for being homeless here in Detroit, or pretty much anywhere else. You see them and you forget them, which may be the sad truth, but it's the truth. As I was about to pass by her on the street, I was taking a lunch break from where I work downtown. She was shambling along in that jerky rhythm so many of them do, talking to herself and grinning like a Halloween pumpkin. Subconsciously, I'm sure my mind was already preparing to erase her existence from my memory banks, before that pitiful existence ever had a chance to register. I got close enough to become annoyed by the squeaky wheels on her cart, and also to have my nostrils violated by her unpleasantness. Her unwashed funk, which was amplified by the heat and humidity of midsummer, when the smells of the city announced themselves at every turn, was like an assault. I squinted, coughed, and turned my head to the side. I held my breath and picked up my pace, hoping that would get me upwind of the woman's unusually foul odor. That's when she took a sudden, deliberate step in my direction. The rapid, unexpected motion drew my attention to her face, and that's when I noticed her eyes were spinning like pinwheels. I made a motion to jump back, but she reached out and grabbed my arm with a vice grip that could have crushed cement. She was smiling, but the smile was gentle, nothing like the Halloween pumpkin expression she wore on her face a few minutes ago. The want of expression, which contrasted so sharply with everything else, threw me off and made me confused. "I see you," she said, her voice sounding like a paper bag full of whispers. I tried to snatch my arm away, but that only added an exclamation point to the pain as she squeezed harder while her nails dug into the fabric of my sports coat. I glanced down as a reflex to see what the hell kind of nails this woman had, and they didn't look like anything that should belong on a human being. They were filthy, caked with what I thought was dirt, but could have been something else, and they were at least an inch long. And they didn't extend from the top of her fingers like what you see on folks. Instead, each finger and her thumb transformed from mottled brown flesh into a hard, sharpened claw. "I see you, Marcellus James." This time it was my mother's voice. Well, that's it for today. Thanks for joining me, and I hope you enjoyed this reading of The Witch, Part 1. I hope you'll join me again next week for Part 2. This is Keith Owens signing off. And remember, you can read the entire story of The Witch from beginning to end at my Substack, Afro Fantasy Detroit, which is a Detroit Stories Quarterly production. Feel free to visit our Detroit Stories Quarterly website at DetroitStoriesQuarterly.com, where you can catch up on all of our Detroit Stories Quarterly magazine issues. See you next week.